All right, we're on air. Happy December 10th, everyone. We are right in the middle of the month before the Backdrop release, so we're almost exactly a month out, which is pretty exciting. So we're going to do a little check-in on everything. Starting with general announcements, we do have Dragon t-shirts and hoodies for anyone who wants to make a donation to the Backdrop Foundation. If you provide $25, we will send you an adorable t-shirt, and if you want to make a donation for $50, we can send you a nice, warm, stuffed Dragon hoodie. So you can make those donations on the website at backdropcms.org/contribute, and we'll mail you your your clothing document, item of apparel, as a thank you gift. We also have free Phpstorm licenses for Backdrop Contrib developers. So if you're a member of the Backdrop Contrib group and would like to try, if you would like to try Phpstorm, you can go ahead and send an email to info@backdropcms.org, and we can send you a license. The license keys that we have right now are set to expire in February, which is pretty soon. So we're going to reach out to the people at Phpstorm and see if they want to send us some more licenses for Contrib developers starting next year, or how they want to handle that going forward, because I think their license key situation might be changing. We had that on our list last week too, but I actually haven't reached out to them yet. I think maybe I better actually make myself a item to do it. So if anyone wants to remind me, that would be good too. We have no important updates from PMC at this time, and I want to turn it over to Nate to talk about community growth.
All right, Nate. Okay, let's see. So numbers for this past week. So we have 178 total contributed projects for Backdrop that are in the GitHub group. That's one new project since last week. On backdropcms.org, there are 110 official projects that have releases. It's really great to see that our number of official projects has eclipsed the total number of GitHub projects. I mean, more than half of them. It's pretty solidly the majority, that everybody that makes a new module on the GitHub repository group, they're also making official releases that get synced over to backdropcms.org. So that's great. Two new projects have had official releases since last week, which is fantastic. And then there's 141 total releases of all projects on backdropcms.org. That means that there are not only new modules being created, but the existing modules are getting new releases and getting updated all the time. So there's 3 new releases since last week, which means 3 new updates to existing modules. We still have 42 total Backdrop contributed authors. There's one application that has kind of been waffling back and forth, but we'd really love to have more authors working to port modules to Backdrop or themes. Themes would be actually, in a lot of ways, better than modules. But we have a process for getting into the Backdrop Contrib group. You can learn more about it at github.com/backdrop-ops/contrib, and that's where we talk about modules that are being ported, or what modules should be ported, as well as like the entire business of, if you want to join the Backdrop Contrib group, then you go through the process there. Cool. Let's go on to the next thing. Next item on the agenda is infrastructure. There's been a lot of kind of exciting things happening in infrastructure land in the past week, actually. So update checking for Backdrop. This has been working for ages. It just makes it so that update module checks into backdropcms.org. But the thing that hasn't been working for a long time now is that when sites do the check-in, backdropcms.org stores information about what modules or projects are currently installed on that site. And Mike, since last week, I actually did look at the data that is stored there, and it is a random hash that each site that checks in sends in a random hash. It actually we actually record the IP address in the raw data, but then once it gets processed on a daily basis, then the IP address is discarded. And I'm not quite sure why it's kept there for that short while in the raw data. But my guess is that it's just to, I don't know, help detect any anomalies. Like if one server is set up like 10,000 sites, then you can tell that they're all coming from one IP address. Oh yes, so the thing that that hadn't been working is that our numbers hadn't been calculating correctly, and there's been a long-standing issue to fix the number crunching script to make it so that the analytics are occurring correctly. And there's been some work on that in the last week, and I think that we'll have a PR probably later today that should fix that problem, and then we can turn back on the number crunching script on backdropcms.org, and then we'll actually have usage statistics on all of the modules and themes and Backdrop itself. It's going to be great because that will allow us to do sorting by most popular modules. So we'll be able to say, show me all modules that contain, I don't know, the word web form, and the web form module will be at the top rather than the latest web form related module ending up on the top, which is not what we want. Let's see. After we get that all done, there are some wish list items. Issue 99 in the backdropcms.org queue is to try to extend project module on the server side and update module on the client side to send over more information about what sites are running, like what options are configured, like if they have caching turned on or off, or clean URLs turned on or off, things like that can help us make decisions about what features people are using in Backdrop and what features are not needed. And then also on the wish list, once we have that project usage up, we want to add charts to show over time how popular modules have been and the growth rate and so on. Let's see, next thing, I kind of mentioned it, Project Browser and Project Browser Server. Project Browser right now is a contrib project. Project Browser Server is up and running on backdropcms.org. And the big exciting thing since last week is that Project Browser Server has been kind of broken on backdropcms.org, and it hasn't been able to return all of the items it should. Like you'd say, give me 30 items, and it would give you like 16 back. And so there was something wrong there. Turns out it was just a problem in the SQL query, and we got that fixed up this week. So now Project Browser Server is working correctly. You can download and try out the contrib module to make it so that you can install modules through a browsing interface. Now there's a new issue for merging Project Browser into Core. It's issue 1399. I actually haven't even tried it out yet, so I'm despite having worked on the server, I haven't actually tried out the interface. That could really use some additional eyeballs to try that out, see how you feel about the user experience of trying to find modules from within your Backdrop website and how the installation process goes and all of those things. So that's issue 1399 to actually put Project Browser into Core. Now that the server is up and running and working correctly, and we have the contrib version, it's really just a matter of getting that module to a state that we think that it is suitable for inclusion in Core. And so that might be in the next release. It's still going to be a little bit cramped, but we'll see if that can happen. Okay, next item on the agenda is Drush. So Drush, our longest standing infrastructure issue is getting Drush working on Backdrop. And we've been talking in weeks past about coming up with some other alternative to Drush, like some Backdrop specific version, like Brush. People have been joking. For now, our focus is really just on getting Drush working for Backdrop because it's a tool that people are already familiar with. Drush is really flexible, and so we've already gotten it to the point that you can use the newest version of Drush, Drush 8. You can download an extension that right now is just in my personal sandbox, github.com/quicksketch/backdrop drush, and you can find a Drush extension there that will make it so that or we'll make it so that drush can identify backdrop, and certain drush commands will work there. And right now it's just the basics: drush cc all, drush updb, really basic commands. Things like drush dl and drush up are much more complicated, and so getting those commands working on backdrop might take some effort.
When you just type drush and it shows all the commands, is it still going to list the commands if they don't work, or does it only list the ones that do work?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually obnoxiously listing all of the commands, and it does that right now between Drupal 7 and Drupal 8 as well. And so I actually filed an issue against Drush saying, can we limit that down to only the commands that actually work on the current environment? And both Moshe and Greg Anderson have been very receptive to that. And so they're thinking what will probably end up happening. They're in agreement that it needs to happen, that they need to filter down the list, because there's stuff like drush v set for variable set that doesn't work on Drupal 8, for example. And then contrary to that, or conversely, there's drush like config set, but config set doesn't work on Drupal 7. And so it's like they've got all these commands that are version specific, but they show up all the time. And so I think what will probably end up happening is that they'll just be, if you type drush help, then it will show the commands that actually make sense. But then if you do like drush help -- all, then it will show you all the commands, even the ones that don't apply to the current environment. I think that's the plan. Yeah, right now if you type in a command that doesn't work, either in Drupal 7, Drupal 8, or backdrop, it'll just say this command is not supported, which is kind of annoying because it's like, you're like, oh sweet, I can totally do these things, and just like, yeah, it's like it's setting you up to fail. Anyway, so that's seeing some progress. Probably once that gets past kind of prototype phase, we can move that into the contrib repository. And then from there, we'll kind of figure out what we want to do with it from there. Whether that goes into core or stays in contrib, we'll figure that out.
Where does the extension install? Is it installed as part of Backdrop, or does it have to be installed in the drush folder?
It has to be installed in the drush folder right now, and it can be installed in, the drush checkout, or if you have a .drush directory, like in your home directory, then it will look in there. Jen, I can't remember. Is there a way that drush can find extensions within an installation as well? I think maybe you can put a .drush directory inside of your installation. Jen, you're muted at the moment.
Sorry. Yeah, it's set up right now to look inside a drush directory inside your project. Greg said he was able to get that to work starting as early as drush 7, but I haven't actually been able to get that to work on my local site. But he thinks it's my problem and not Drush's problem.
Okay. Yeah, it looks in a variety of places. It looks in the drush installation directory. It looks in your home directory in .drush, and I think Jen's right that it also looks in the current directory.
Yeah, but it might not look in, because right now drush works no matter what directory you're in within your site root, but it might not find it if you're like in one of your if you're like in modules or something like that, and you type drush commands. Does it actually go up the directories, and would it find it in like the backdrop root? So I mean.
Yeah, it's supposed to identify the root of your project and then look for a drush directory, but it won't be able to do that obviously if you're not in a site. Like, you can use drush to download Drupal, right? But it wouldn't be able to run commands that were within Drupal from there. But it should be able to find it anywhere inside Drupal, even in a sub-site directory. So, in theory.
But does that? But will that? But since we need this module or extension to identify backdrop before it finds the current site,
Yep. Yep, and that's a problem that I think may not be solved, because Drush doesn't know what an installation root looks like unless it already has found its base class that says this is what a root directory looks like exactly. So we're in this chicken egg problem. So I don't know that will actually, the Drush extension to actually identify backdrop will work if it's just in the root of a backdrop installation, because it doesn't
So
know.
it sounds like it can't be in core unless it does that, because otherwise, I mean, it wouldn't live there. It would live in your Drush thing. So it would have to be a. It might not be a contrib module. You might need like another like an extensions or tools repository or something that it could live in.
Yeah, or Drush would need to figure out a way that's like it just goes up the parent directories until it finds a Drush directory, and then if it finds one, then it says, oh, this must be a root, or I'm going to load the extensions in it, or something like that. It could be possible, but yeah, there's weirdness going on for sure. Yeah, cool. So the prototype, Drush for Backdrop, the full issue is issue number 47. If you'd like to read the full history of that. And then there's also tangential issues all over the Drush issue queue to better support not only Backdrop, but the different versions of Drupal and make it less confusing. Let's see. This next issue, GitHub automation, actually the next couple of items, Jen, you're more familiar with them. Why don't you take it from here?
Sure. So this is something we talked about last week, that we have a bunch of issues in the queue that involve working directly with GitHub and getting our issue tracker to be more user-friendly. And somebody mentioned, well, why don't we add them to the agenda if they're not getting attention, and they should? And I was like, oh, that's smart. So there's a new agenda item here for GitHub automation tasks. There is a tag on the backdropcms.org queue specifically for anything relating to GitHub automation. So if we know anyone who is a GitHub expert or wants to learn how to play with GitHub's API, we have a subset of tasks there that I think would make working in the issue queue much easier on everyone. Things like when a pull request fails tests, automatically marking it needs work, and then also automatically marking the associated issue as pull request needs work. And things like that, since people don't often have control over the tags on the pull request queue, we need to get those automated. And then having the pull request sync with the issues, I think, will also give us a better experience searching through issue queues if we're looking for things like pull requests that need to be reviewed. So getting those done, I think, will be great. So there's now an issue on the agenda to talk about every week until we get around to doing it. The next item is the Backdrop cms.org primary website. We have new designs for a user profile page, which we got on Monday, and they look fantastic. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about building it. I'm excited, maybe I'll give it to Wes. You look excited about building it. So far, we've added a ton of fields to the user profile on Backdrop. There are 2 modules that need to be ported and 2 modules that just needed to be added to our code base in order to get the complete set of everything we talked about. But most of it is already there, and so I think it will be pretty easy to take the design that Darius gave us and build out 90% of it, which I think is enough for us to launch on January 1st. And by launch, I mean allow people to log in. So I think that would be great. Let's see. There's one thing that we didn't have a design meeting today. There's one thing that I just want to kind of throw out to you guys and see what you think. His designs look fantastic, and it allowed each user to upload a banner image, much like you have on your Twitter page or on your Facebook account or whatever. That is not something we currently support, but it made the page look fantastic. I also think it's a good place to kind of let people show a little bit more of their personality by choosing an image for that. I want to just throw that out and see if anyone had any strong feelings for or against not only an icon that represents you that'll appear in comments and stuff, but also a banner image just for your homepage. Okay. That's kind of, I thought it was great too. I saw it and I'm like, I didn't even think of that, but it looks fantastic. So we'll try that. We'll see if anyone uses it. Yeah, we should figure out how to provide something by default, just so that it's not a big blank space. There's a good one in the design mock-up that we might use for now. But I think that once we start getting consistent branding assets for Backdrop, it might be good to take the one that we use on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and put that one up there. And that way, I don't know, it'll be consistent. I don't know. We'll have to see what it looks like, but it's a great starting point. So I'm very excited about that. Also coming soon on the backdropcms.org website is we want to let people who have GitHub accounts do a single sign-on between Backdrop and GitHub, and then once they're logged in to the backdropcms.org website, we want to let them do things there, and those things will be adding their websites to a showcase, posting themselves as being available for work or seeking work, adding themselves to a list of service providers for Backdrop, posting job opportunities that might be available for that, and also writing blog posts or comments on blog posts or something that involves like a little more interactivity, which is something that was brought up recently as well relating to marketing. So we'll try and figure out how we can get people more involved in a kind of a on the website somehow. Maybe also a forum, but we're still thinking about that.
I'd love a blog to write about my experiences with Backdrop.
There we go. All right, so speaking of blogging, the next item on our agenda is marketing-related tasks. And this is also something where a couple of meetings we've had tasks where we've been like, you know what, it would be really nice if we knew something about marketing. And then our little monkey contributor created this amazing issue in the issue queue about all of the stuff that Backdrop should be doing marketing-related that would really help us. And I went through and created a whole bunch of smaller like sub-issues off of his meta issue and was like, we need to do all of these things. And here's the to-do list for us to kind of work through and get them done. So I put some of the high-level ones on this agenda so we can talk about them. One is optimize our website for searching. So if someone's searching for a content management system or a CMS or a website framework, whatever, they'll find Backdrop. I think right now if you search for Backdrop, you find us right away. But if you search for content management system, that's not the case. So I think it would be good to get our website optimized for that. Another thing we could probably do is pay for targeted ads. We don't have a whole lot of budget for that, so the first thing we looked into was going to be $1,000 to $7,000 per month, and we politely backed out. So finding an affordable place to advertise would also be really great. We have a couple of suggestions in there, like Google ads or Facebook ads that might specifically target people who say they're Drupal developers. Might be a good first start. Or, yeah, I don't know, anyone who's looking for a CMS would be great for Google as well. And then creating a blog and writing posts. That's definitely something that's been on our list for a long time, having a place to say things to the community. We kind of have a content type on our website, but we don't actually have a blog page. We only just put the most recent item on the homepage, and then it kind of disappears into the ether. But even though we have a mechanism for creating blog posts, we don't often have anyone saying anything. So if we have anyone who's in this meeting or watching this video now or later who is great at writing words but maybe feels more comfortable writing words for Backdrop than writing code or providing designs or any of the other stuff we need, we definitely need help with that too. So just some kind of way to give the community updates about what's going on, what are we doing, you know, little tips about working with Backdrop, or I don't know, anything that could be useful or interesting. Getting some news out to people, I think, would be really valuable. Also on our marketing list is guest authoring blog posts on other existing blogs. So same thing, if we have someone who wants to write blog posts, we can put them on our site, we can put them on other sites. Just getting more news about Backdrop out, the better. We also want to update the titles and descriptions for all of the videos for these weekly meetings. Today I remember to put a link to the agenda in the meeting description, so that should be exciting. But having a name that actually describes what we're talking about would also be good if someone's looking for something like, oh, this is, you know, the meeting they had the day they released 1.2 or whatever it is. They could find it if we had some way of labeling that, but just a date sometimes isn't useful because we often say the same thing every week, and weekly meeting, whatever, is not super descriptive. Also, we do have Google Analytics on backdropcms.org, but we haven't been paying any attention to it, to like who our people are, where they're going on our website, where they're coming from, and I think doing a little research on what we're doing now that's working and what we're doing now that's not working might also be really useful, just to try and figure out, you know, what we could be doing better or who we could be targeting better to try and let them know about Backdrop. So if anyone knows anything about analyzing Google Analytics results and wants to help us make sense of our data, we definitely have a need for that as well. All right. That's it for Backdrop infrastructure, marketing, other various tasks associated with the product. And now we're going to talk about the status of Backdrop CMS itself. We have an upcoming bug fix release, number 1.2.3. There's nothing super urgent or critical in it, but we do have a bunch of cross ports from Drupal 7 that we could get in and make that release at any time. Nate was also super excited. Last week, PHP 7 came out, and so we started on an issue to make Backdrop work on PHP 7. I don't know, Nate, where that stands. I think it's ready to merge.
Yeah, it's even better. It's already been merged. Yeah, so that's actually a good reason to make a new release. Actually,
or write a blog post.
Yeah, it should be both. Exactly. We should get out both of those things. We should make a release, and we should write a blog post on PHP 7 support, because I think that would be great. I know Drupal 7 and PHP 7 support is not so hot because there's this constant, like, it needs to be fixed in Drupal 8 first, and then it gets stuck, and then it never makes it back to 7. So I don't know. I've seen posts recently that were just like mentioning that Drupal 7 might not ever support PHP 7 just because of this funny, like, nobody's really working on Drupal 7 anymore mentality. It would be really sad. Well, I mean, and there's some things like views, like our port of views at least, had a problem where it was spewing errors all over the place, and so even if core supports it, contrib is still going to have some issues. So yeah. Anyway, so we should write that up. It would be great. I'd also love to do the benchmarks on it. I saw Gore posted an article that was like, here's WordPress on PHP 5.6, hip hop, and PHP 7, and here's Drupal on those things, and we can do a similar benchmarking on Backdrop just to get an idea of what kind of impact it would have.
That's fantastic, and it's a great idea. All right, so as soon as we want, we can make a release for that. Andy, I don't know if you've had any time to look at all of those cross-ports from Drupal 7. I know you said a couple of weeks ago you were interested in doing it, but busy. That might be something that maybe we could work on today. If you can't work on it today, I can probably work on it today, just to get a whole bunch more of those cross-ports in, and then if there's anything that looks sticky, we can just do it in the next release, but that way we can get the point release out with more of that similar stuff. So, comparable with Drupal 7 is good. Supporting PHP 7 is better. Okay, so next minor release, 1.3.0, scheduled for January 15th. That is 1 month and 5 days from today. And we have a bunch of things we want to get into 1.3. There's a ton of tiny issues that are all scheduled for 1.3 in GitHub. I don't think all of them are going to get done. A lot of them already have pull requests. A lot of them need reviews. A lot of them need a little bit of work. A lot of them haven't had any work at all. But I think that if we can just get some of these little details right, it'll make Backdrop the product just that much more appealing to new users. People who know Drupal are familiar with these problems already. So it might be kind of a breath of fresh air, but they already know how to solve it. But I think the more we're trying to market Backdrop to people who aren't in Drupal, the slicker it needs to feel as a standalone product. So I think the more of that we can fix, the better. If anyone has any spare time, a lot of these issues are also not super complicated. A lot of them are novice issues. So if you have 5 or 10 minutes and you want to write a pull request, it's a good issue to grab in order to do that. So just keep that in mind if you don't have a lot of time to commit but want to make a big difference. That's a good place to do it. Some of the issues we're working on are follow-ups to the layouts module, which is new to Backdrop. Didn't exist in Drupal. We put in a minimum viable product. We know there's more it can do. You can build sites with it as is, as has been proven. It works great, but there are more things that would make it better that we want to do that are on that list, and that's issue 345. Same thing with a rich text editor and core. We put in a minimum viable product. We've already made some significant updates to it. We know there's a handful more. We can get those into 1.3.0. That would be great as well. Administration views in core, this was something that we wanted to get all of the admin listings in Backdrop turned into views for Backdrop 1, but we missed one of them. It's the comments listing. We can get that one completed. We can knock that off the list. That's just one of those check marks that Drupal 8 has that we don't. I would love to get that check mark done for us as well. Then there's just some usability things. We use the word edit and the word configure all over core interchangeably a lot of the times, and it's a little confusing when you're supposed to use one and when you're supposed to use the other. I think we have a really good delimitation in Backdrop between things that are saved in configuration, the link should say configure, and things that are saved in the database, the things should say edit. And if in the future we make a change, like we want to move menu link from being content to being configuration, we can change that link from edit to configure in the future. And that way people will understand when they're doing configuration management, that maps to every link they click that says configure. So we just need to do a little cleanup on those. And I think for the most part that's pretty straightforward. There are a couple of really easy tasks associated with that. There are also a couple of really tricky ones that we might not be able to get to, like changing the edit links on views. Every piece of documentation about how to deal with views says edit your view. I think people will be able to figure it out if the link says configure, but it is just something to keep in mind that could be a little tricky. Adding a notification icon to core. This is going to be great. This is rather than requiring that people visit their status report to figure out what's up with their website, or blasting a giant red error message across the top of every admin page when your core is out of date, we could just put a little icon in the toolbar over the reports section and let people know that there's something up that they need to check on. That would be huge. I think we can get the little tiny icon in right away. We also have longer-term plans for making a fancier notification system where you can have messages, you can view them, you can dismiss them. That I think probably won't get into 1.3, but I would love to see something like that developed in Contrib, and we can put it in anytime in the future. We also want to clean up field UI. This is a big, hard problem. We've made a bunch of progress in terms of making some designs, but I haven't made very much progress towards actually figuring out how to implement them. I don't think this is going to make 1.3 based on the amount of time we have left, but field UI is a separate module, which means it could develop in Contrib. People could turn off the field UI we have in core and turn on fancy fields or whatever it is you want to call it in Contrib, and we could build it that way. So if we don't make 1.3, we can still get a new field UI at some point, and we can merge it in when it's ready. And then I also just moved the project browser into core issue from early part in the agenda to here. It would be great to get it into 1.3. I'm not sure how close it is if it's ready for that, but I think that would be a big win for usability, which is why I scheduled it for this release. So we'll see. We also have, if you check the GitHub issue tracker, we have a milestone for 1.3.0 where you can see a whole bunch of little tiny issues if you want to take a look at those too that didn't make this agenda but are still on our roadmap for getting those done. And then since 1.3 is not a feature release, it's a user experience, polish, follow up, make things nice release, we've also started thinking about what features we might want for 1.4. We've talked about references module. We've talked about adding some kind of version of the redirect module. We've also talked about adding in a new front-end theme that people could actually use on Backdrop out of the box. I think all of those things are great. I think anyone who wants to start thinking about them now can, and we will definitely start talking about them more seriously after 1.3 is out. Our official roadmap is listed on the website, backdropcms.org/roadmap. A lot of it is still in flux. Obviously, if you have suggestions, let us know. But we definitely are still open-minded about what we're doing in the future, and things that aren't set in stone aren't going to be on the website. As soon as we figure things out, we'll add them to the website. So, yeah, feel free to weigh in. There's always a bunch of other issues we're working on for Backdrop that are not necessarily mentioned in this meeting. User experience is something that's going to be really important for Backdrop going forward, so we have a special way to indicate user experience issues in two little square brackets in the beginning of the issue title with the letters UX between them, and that way we can call special attention to issues that might improve the user experience of Backdrop. Same thing goes for developer experience. We put DX in square brackets at the beginning of the issue title, and that'll call attention to issues that might improve what it's like working with Backdrop as a developer. That tag works for both front-end developers and back-end developers, so if you find something funny in the theme system, it also gets a DX tag. So definitely use Backdrop, file issues, tag them accordingly if you can. We do try and keep an eye on stuff that comes in and can help organize them if you don't know what tag to put on it. But yeah, let us know how you feel it's going, and we will try and make it all better in the future. All right, every Thursday we have this weekly meeting, which is at 1 p.m. California time. Fortnightly, every other Thursday, we have a design-focused meeting. Sometimes that just talks about things we're working on. Sometimes it's a working meeting where we will actually try and solve some problems depending on what's needed. We have a little sprint after these meetings on Thursdays where we hang out in the IRC channel backdrop or the gitter.im channel backdrop-issues. We also have a lot of activity in the issue queue at this time, which is on GitHub. And we have a Reddit that I don't think is super active these days, but it's reddit.com/r/backdrop. We will eventually figure out how to do something on our own website. We're not quite there yet with that. If you want to subscribe to these meetings or have them show up on your calendar, we do also have an iCal feed available, which you can get from Google. We'll eventually move those onto our website. Again, long-term goals aren't there yet. And we also have an iCal feed set up for Drupal events that are backdrop friendly. So if there's a Drupal event that you would like to speak at or have been asked by organizers to talk about backdrop, or if you are an organizer and you want the world to know that you can come to that event to talk about backdrop, you can send an email to info@backdropcms.org and we'll add that to the calendar. Again, we'll hopefully get that on our website soon. You can add your own events. But for now, we've just got a couple of events coming up on that calendar. We have Sand Camp, which is at the end of February. We have Drupal Camp Utah, which is at the beginning of March. And we have Drupal Camp Chicago, which is at the end of March. So if anyone has anything else coming up they want to let us know about, let us know. Otherwise, that's what's coming up 2016. Let's see. Yeah, so under publicity, we have the first ever Backdrop CMS book, which is being published. I just followed up on the issue for that yesterday. It's supposed to hit shelves on December 15th. So if you're looking for a Christmas present for your honey, maybe the Backdrop CMS book is a good choice. It's written by Todd Tomlinson, who's the guy who did the Pro Drupal development book for Drupal 7. It's published to the same company, which I think is Apress. So I have high expectations about it being very accurate and well written. We're super excited to see it, and big thanks to Todd for putting all of the time and energy to get that book out. So I'm really looking forward to getting that. He's also doing a Drupal 8 book too, so I think it'll be really cool to get his perspective on the two systems as well, having been so experienced with Drupal 7 and then looking at both Drupal 8 and Backdrop and seeing how he feels. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. All right, so is there anything else we should talk about this week that we haven't talked about or that you guys want to talk about while we're here? Open Q&A.
I have an issue that I was sort of, well, actually, it's many issues. It's sort of the overall question of how we're handling custom blocks. There seems to be several different sort of competing issues for changing how blocks work with layouts and how to add custom blocks. About, you know, whether we're switching them with, because right now they're in configure, but they are treated as content in the database, and so it looks like there's two different issues. Like one is to like make them into content and fieldable entities and stuff like that, and then there's another one to make an implementation of like another type of custom blocks within the layout interface itself.
So there's two different solutions. If you have a block that is in the custom blocks table, that is content, and that will always be content. And we're managing that using the UUID for each block as they get inserted into the layout. But the thing that you're also talking about is going to be called a custom text block, which is not a block module block. It is a layout module block. And that's just a box that you can type whatever you want into, and when you save it, the content of that box gets saved with the layout. So it's not content, it's just configuration. The custom text box we don't have yet. That's in our follow-up issue for layouts. So hopefully that'll be in 1.3. But the block content, we do already have the custom block, which is content, and that's what you see on the blocks list now. So there are two different approaches, and when to use each one will be up to you. Like if you need to have your content editors constantly editing or updating or adding blocks, then that's probably content. But if you need to have it just be placed once and never changed, then it's probably configuration. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Choose whatever you prefer to work with in any given situation. But yeah, we are going to have both solutions so that people can choose to do it either way.
I think we might want to work on the terminology, though, because like custom blocks and custom text blocks sound like exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think maybe...
I don't think we're going to call them custom text blocks. It'll just be a text block.
Okay, but does it have to be just text? I mean, could you put images? And then they're talking about token support for it, too.
That text block will not be fieldable. So you could, like the fieldable entity thing is that's content. I don't know if you can put images in a text block. I would assume that you would just type in an image tag. But you couldn't actually attach.
But I mean you could theoretically put HTML, you could like put a movie in there. It's not just text, and I think it's, so I mean, whether we want to call it something else, like maybe like a layout block or something like that, because it's just, if we call it a layout block, that sort of clarifies that it's just usable within that layout.
Yeah, that layout block also doesn't have any, there's no meaning to any of those words.
Okay.
It's like all blocks are in layouts, and there's nowhere to put a block that's not in a layout. We definitely need to work on naming things.
Yeah. I mean, the one suggest, like the current custom blocks, which are going to be content, perhaps we could call those content blocks, and that'll clarify that they're content and appear under the content menu, and that they're fieldable and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe we call those content blocks, and then the ones in layouts that are just in layouts are like custom blocks or something like that. But
yeah,
I think we definitely need to clarify, because I was looking through all the issues, and I was very confused about what was happening.
Yes, the words are confusing. I think if we can figure out what words to call things, then reading the issues might become less confusing too. But yeah, we are going to have both. I agree we need to figure out what to name them. I would love to take that offline, or maybe just into a different conversation and just try and figure out, like, what do we call these things that's going to make sense to people. I also am not married to the word block. A lot of people are. It has a long history in Drupal, but I feel like there might be a better word to use than that. And we also are misusing the word layouts, too. Like, sometimes a layout is a project, and sometimes a layout is a page, and sometimes a layout is a configuration. And I think that trying to figure out how to talk about these things in ways, and we're also misusing the word page, but let's not get into that. We need to figure out what to call these things, particularly the custom block versus text block problem. So yes, I don't know. I mean, we have a. Why don't we work on the name for a text block in the follow-up issue for layouts module that was to add the whatever it is block. And then if we need to change the word of custom block, we can. I think we called it custom block because that's what Drupal 8 called it. I think the module was called custom block module in Drupal 8, and that's where they got the name from. But we might look into that too and see what the value is of having the names be the same as Drupal 8 versus having them be clear for this thing by itself. I'd love to just see it make sense, but that could be.
At one point, Jen, I also recall that I think there's an issue for this, that you wanted to move blocks, the custom blocks, into the content menu and out from structure, because they really are. They're basically, once they become fieldable entities, like a block and a node will essentially be the same thing. It's just that nodes have URLs and blocks don't, and that other than that, they'd basically be the same. Which also prompted, like, what about, like, URL less nodes, like, as that as a potential concept? And it's like, and then from there it all just came unraveled. So, but I do think moving blocks into content would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
As well as solving some terminology problems.
Yeah, but then when you're building a layout with blocks, the problem is you'd build a layout on your dev server or something like that, and then it would be in configuration, and you'd move it to the live site. But the problem is if you're using content blocks, then the content isn't in the configuration, and you end up with a layout that points to nothing. So it's sort of like you have this weird thing where you have to go to the live site, create the blocks, sync to your dev site, then add the blocks, rather than, yes, I mean, maybe if we have the two different solutions, maybe people most often use the layout blocks, the layout custom blocks, for doing that sort of thing. But yeah, it's
yeah.
But we might want to think about having, it seems like there's a lot of these sort of discussions, like maybe have some sort of issue tag specifically around terminology, or around like, hey, we need to make a decision about what to call things or how something's going to work, some sort of like decision issue that's less about technical stuff and more along the lines of like people chiming in with how they think.
We have a tag for that. It's the needs feedback tag.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So if you ever find an issue that is specifically like we need to have a conversation, tag it with needs feedback, and that will hopefully get the attention of people to like weigh in and have that conversation. And if it's something specifically around terminology, also feel free to add the UX tag. That's definitely something that always affects user experience.
Yeah.
So
that's good to know. Maybe we want to review the tickets that are tagged with needs feedback in these weekly meetings, or at least the important ones.
Yeah.
Just because if they're sitting there waiting for feedback, you know, it's just like, hey, everyone, there's this ticket or these tickets that need feedback. Go look at them.
Yep. Okay.
Because the more eyes, the better on this sort of thing before we make decisions that don't make sense, and we end up with Drupal 8.
Yep. Also, though, keep in mind that we can change our minds. So if we do make a decision that doesn't make sense, we can make another decision later that maybe makes slightly more sense. So
that's crazy, Jen. That's crazy. I don't know what you're talking about.
I feel like sometimes in Drupal land, people are like hesitant to make any change at all because they're like, what if we get it wrong? And I'm like, well, we'll just change it again. So yeah, I think let's not spend too much time worrying about it. We'll try it. If we get it wrong, we'll just change it again later. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Trying things is good. Okay. Anything else? Or did you have something you wanted to add? Oh, one thing I wanted to add too, when we got to the marketing section, Gore wrote a great article about Backdrop that was in Russian that I had to translate, and I wasn't sure I got all of it, but I thought it looked really great, so I just wanted to say thank you for posting that on your site already.
Yeah, you're welcome. Actually, I'm here with some feedback about organization process.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm not coming for meetups very often. Probably last time I've been last summer, or I don't know, like a long time ago. And it's really hard to find information when and where meetup happens, especially when you're not so deep in a team who is doing it every week. And when this information show up on the Facebook or even in the chat, it's like too late to spread it to other people who like want to come once in a while. And my suggestion at this point is like having an agenda ready 24 hours before, post it on the Facebook, and ask people who are really involved in the process to share it. Like it, share it, so this way it will get to other people who might kind of think to come, and they have like 24 hours to make it possible for themselves, because we all have some tasks and problems and work and etc. We need to have a time before make a decision to come.
Okay. I think that's really great feedback. We usually have the agenda ready a week before, and I just schedule one tweet, which is like half an hour before the meeting. But it'd be really easy to schedule one a day before, and that way people can weigh in on the agenda. And what happens is the tweets automatically import into Facebook, so if I can schedule them to happen a day before and then half an hour before, that will give people to give feedback on the agenda. We can add anything we want. I think that's a brilliant idea. I don't know why we didn't think of it before. We can definitely make that happen. So that's great.
That's awesome. And because it will be available one day before, I can repost it on the Russian market on Drupal.ru, which can bring a potential developers who kind of want to check it out and at least listen and maybe give you some feedback about process.
Okay.
Another question I have, is there really one person who is doing marketing?
No.
Is there any plans to make somebody who is not so involved in the development process but really like to talk to people, share stuff, and etc.? Is there anybody around who wants to do so?
So I would love if we could get somebody who was like stamped official Backdrop marketing person. I was kind of hoping maybe we could get our Backdrop's favorite monkey to do it, since he's a marketing expert, but I'm not sure how much time he has to contribute to that. So I would just say anyone who's interested in it, if anyone's watching now, if you want to be involved in marketing to take on some of these marketing tasks or even manage getting them done by other people, that would be fantastic. I would love to get someone in that role.
Well, when this person will show up, I already have a proposition what to do actually with information. So, for example, I was posting this link yesterday, and about PHP 7, that will post in the chat right now. And we need somebody who is kind of searching through internet, through popular blogs about information that pop up about new features like PHP 7 or Drupal 8 or something like this, where it's applicable to share information about Backdrop CMS as well, just to do so. For example, on this link, author of this article was asking what should I add to this test as well. And I added my comment, yeah, check it out, Backdrop CMS. We are going to release 1.2.3 that will be PHP 7 compatible, and there is a link to download it right now from a dev version to check it out under PHP 7. But really, I don't see so much activity about Backdrop on the internet. So
Yeah.
we kind of really missing. And even if I post this topic on Github chat, there is actually no extra comments. So like, there is no activity, social activity. People doesn't do it. So if somebody likes, so like, just go there, drop messages right now. Maybe it will bring extra attention. Plus, Google will index it, and it will get linked PHP 7, Backdrop CMS, and eventually will show up somewhere, which is a good idea. And like at this topic, for example, is anybody else saw this link before? Or did anybody see this link before, like that I just posted about this Backdrop review? And it has 0, actually right now, 1 share on a Facebook that I did it. So we're completely missing when we even find some information about Backdrop CMS online.
Yeah.
There is nothing happen, like nothing happened, really nothing happened. No links on the Facebook, no anywhere.
Yeah, we need somebody to like aggregate these things and re-broadcast them, tweet them, post them on Facebook, share them with friends, just to try and get more noise about everything that does come up too.
Yeah, and we have already like enough people who is doing some development. So if, like, for example, I will just jump a little bit. A Github, it took me a while to figure out where we do have a Github chat.
Yeah.
Under Github, there is almost no way information about it. But if like people who really interested get together, and it could be like public chat that's easy to find. So articles like this could be dropped in a chat, and people can like, share, spread it around. If you don't even have time, like check it out, just open, fair enough, click to share. That's it. So that's my proposition at this point.
Okay, I think that's great. I will go ahead and start posting these things today, just so that we can get them out there already. But again, if anybody is interested in picking up some or all of these marketing tasks, or even better, managing kind of the role of Backdrop's marketing expert, it would be great to have that. I'll also send out a tweet and a Facebook post about needing someone to do our marketing stuff. Maybe we can even send a new newsletter, Nate, that talks about Backdrop on PHP 7, and we can put a little paragraph in there about looking for someone to help with marketing. I think we probably have somebody in our community already who would be perfect for that job. who maybe even has the time to do it. And I think just making a little bit more noise about it will help. And then if we can get that person, then we can make a bunch of noise about everything. So really great suggestions, Corey. I am grateful for hearing about them. So thank you.
Yeah, to elaborate on that, we totally are open to expanding the liberties of like our Twitter account. Like right now, it's Jen and I running like the Backdrop Facebook page and the Backdrop Twitter account and the YouTube feed. And really, like, if we do have a volunteer that's interested in handling the social aspects of things, like we will be more than happy to share that responsibility. And I think that's a great idea that we do need more people doing it because, like, of the two of us, Jen is the better marketer, but really neither of us are very good in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, that would be great. And like some of these things are really great points, like this article that just came out a couple days ago, 6 days ago, that was like actually reposting of this video. Like, I don't even know actually where this video even came from. I mean, it's Jen giving a presentation, so clearly, and I think I'm probably in it too. I see my demo, at least I haven't actually watched it. But I'm not sure where this video came from. Like, I mean, we've given this presentation like 20 times, so it could have been from any one of those conferences, but conferences are so bad about actually publishing the videos that's like when one actually shows up, like I've never even seen a video of our presentations before. So there is one now, I guess. And it would be great to market that to other people as well, because I didn't even know it existed, so it's really unlikely anybody else knew it existed either. All right, well, thanks for all of those suggestions. That's great, Corey. Okay.
My pleasure.
Does anyone have anything else we should talk about, or any other questions or feedback? Great. Well, it's been about an hour. Why don't we go ahead and wrap up this meeting? We will move to GitHub. I have a nice long to-do list of things to get going today. But I also really want to try the project browser. God, I'll get to it, maybe. All right, first things first, marketing first, then code later. But okay, well, thank you everybody for coming, and thank everybody for watching. And definitely, if you have any feedback, you can send a tweet to @backdropcms.org. You can find us on Facebook. You can send an email to info@backdropcms.org, or most easily create issues on GitHub. That's usually where I spend most of the time. But yeah, thank you all for coming, and we will see you next week.
All right. Bye, team. Thanks, everybody, for joining and watching.